William and Harry reunite at last at their late uncle's funeral.
And does Harry have a plan to return to the UK and rehabilitate his reputation? Hello and welcome to Heirs and Spares, the show where we bring you insight and opinion into the lives of two rather famous royal couples on both sides of the Atlantic. I'm Kinsey Schofield, and I'll be bringing you updates on the Duke and Duchess of Sussex right here in sunny California.
And I'm Rupert Bell, bringing you updates on the Prince and Princess of Wales, who, like many parents, are probably relieved school holidays have come to an end.
That's right. We've got so much to talk about, and we're going to get to that conversation in just a moment. But really, what it almost broke the internet last week, the fact that Prince William and Prince Harry were in the same space for their late uncle's funeral. They both attended this funeral in Norfolk. Reports say the Prince of Wales and the Duke of Sussex wanted to pay respects to their mother's brother-in-law, Lord Robert Fellows. Harry flew in from the US to join the Spencer family. The Sun said that the brothers made a discreet appearance and sat apart from each other in the back of the church. A local resident was quoted by the Sun saying William and Harry kept their distance and did not speak to each other. Now, initial reports, Rupert, were that Prince Harry would not be there. We debated whether or not we might see Prince William, but we did hear that Prince Harry was not going to be there. So it goes to show how much things can change at the last minute, right?
Well, I think more importantly, it shows the significance of the part Lord Robert Fellows may have played in both the boys' lives, William and Harry. And when you look at where he came from, remember he was the long-standing personal private secretary to the late Queen. Obviously, as you mentioned in your introduction, Diana's brother-in-law. So you can see the sort of royal wheels within wheels, and reflects probably an older time, when you look at Diana was perceived as suitable wife material back in the day. Thankfully, whether they should still be doing that, that's open for debate. But if you see what I mean, there was a traditional view that from the aristocracy. But Lord Robert Fellows was a long-standing, he looked after the boys and obviously was a comfort to them, and very difficult through the divorce. And he was also the private secretary during that annus horribilis that the late Queen referred to back in the early 90s, when, not only the divorce of Charles and Diana, there was Sarah and the Duke and Duchess of York splitting up, then the Windsor Castle fire. There were all sorts of series of events, and the royal family's popularity was at a pretty low ebb. But I think what it does come down to is that Harry at least shows, some sense of family. And what was really good, it was under the cover of darkness. There was no fanfare, and it only slipped out. And yes, there are local residents saying they sat at the back. I think the local vicar who conducted the service has also been quoted how he was slightly surprised to see them. But it is sad that there they are at their uncle's funeral, and they're almost, they're not they don't want to speak to each other. And it's a sad subplot to what, anyway, for many people will be a very sad day. He lived to 82, a good innings, but still a very sad day for the family at whole. But at least, I suppose, it shows that even in these circumstances, the brothers can at least manage to be in the same room.
Right. I almost wonder too if we should give them more credit than just assuming that, and of course, initially, because I was on TV within seconds of the report breaking, initially you're like, Harry, who is hurting who is shunning who? Harry shuns Prince William shuns Prince Harry. But you get away from the event after a few days and you wonder if it's actually a display of respect towards their family members. We're not going to create drama. We don't want to be the center of attention. We want Lord Fellows to be the focus. We're here to honor his life. And maybe it's not about two brothers that don't get along, but two brothers that have matured enough to realize that it's not about them. And they do need to keep a low profile to honor this individual who was so loyal to the crown and loyal to their family, but so loyal to the Queen. And it needs to be about him that day.
Well, I think so much of what needs to be, whenever the Harry William sort of roadshow comes in time, it immediately becomes a distraction. So I am pleased that this occasion has actually gone under the radar, a small family affair. There may be a memorial service at a later date, maybe in London or somewhere to remember him more formally. But in this case, this is the family occasion. And I think the common sense has prevailed, that it's quiet, it's unobtrusive. We are honouring a man who served William and Harry's grandmother to great effect, and that's the priority and had to be the priority. So the fact that it slipped out later on is good, and maybe they might have been able to say hello to each other, but again, it might have been a little frosty, and presumably people were sort of looking over their shoulders, wondering what's going on here. But the main focus, and you're absolutely right, was to honour a man who had served the royal family with distinction.
And I had some say to me, is this a sign that Prince Harry is desperate to come back to the UK? I keep arguing no, and we'll get to that when we get later into Harry and Meghan. I have some thoughts about that, but I also wonder how much of it is Harry really aligning himself with the Spencers, who have continued to support him throughout this difficult time, being separated from the royal family. It's a self-induced exile, but we have seen the Spencers rally around him as he's left the British royal family in that tight fold.
Yes, I think because he's obviously, in Harry's case, he makes great play of his mother and the sort of problems that it resulted, not only from the divorce of his mother, but then obviously the tragic circumstances of her death that left a vulnerable teenager, as he was then, very tender age, scarred. And so I think the Spencer family, and we obviously remember what Earl Spencer did at the funeral and the emotional speech. Yeah, I mean, he's an interesting character in his own right. Is his Harry's uncle, but you have to look at it in overall context. That the Spencer family probably, blood is thicker than water, and want to always feel that there is an olive branch. And actually, many of the digs are not necessarily much at the Spencer family. They've almost they're in his eyes they're the good cop. It's the royal family in Harry's case. And other maybe his brother and others who are the bad cop. The Spencer's good cop and the royal family bad cop.
That's so true. And if you study Princess Diana, she really struggled in her relationships with her family. So for Prince Harry, he is a grudge holder. That we've seen that if you just flip through the pages of Spare, and it surprises me about. Although I wonder how much he does. No, did he read Diana, her true story, like word by word? Did he digest it? Does he understand, where some of her animosity with her family, was it sincere? Was she just in the heat of the moment? I'm surprised that he doesn't have some resentment there, because there are stories that Earl Spencer wouldn't allow her to stay on the property during a specific time when she wanted to, so she ran off with the Fayed family for the summer, and that whole direction. I mean, that is a direction that led to something catastrophic. So I'm surprised that Prince Harry isn't resentful based on some of the things his mother has said.
I think Charles Spencer is a complicated character, and has had, as we know from the book he wrote, it's there's a lot of baggage going on. That family, it didn't have it easy. Okay, the elder sisters of Diana seem to have been able to plough a more stable furrow. But when you think about it, Diana's parents, the mother was shunned. I remember the mother, she was a shopkeeper in Oban in Scotland. Well, she owned a gift shop in Scotland. And, and I know that, I've met her and my parents knew her quite well. But, it was a very sad set of circumstances. And obviously, the stepmother of Diana, there was, again, if you think, if you think the Queen was, the current Queen is a wicked stepmother in many eyes. Reign was seen as a bit of a wicked stepmother. So it wasn't without its aristocratic complications. And actually, that's why Harry probably has a lot of stuff going on. And that's all part of the big picture. But at least he feels that the Spencer side offer a little bit more, maybe, through Diana's brother, a little bit of an olive branch, and as I say, maybe seen as more the good cop, even though at the time, and let's be honest, Charles Spencer, I don't think he's got much of a relationship with some of his children. I mean, it's all a bit of a mess as well. So, it's sad that these families have got so many divisions within their ranks.
But it's also a reflection of normal families. Like, I know, I think we want to hold them up to a higher standard, but the reality is a lot of people have these types of problems. So it just reminds us that these are normal people,
Yeah, but you can choose your friends, but you can't choose your family.
That's true. Let's talk about going back to school, because I bet you that the princes and the princess are pretty excited to see some of their old friends. They are headed back to school on September 4th, this Wednesday. I don't have children, but do you imagine that the Prince and Princess of Wales are ready for summer to come to an end? Or do you think they could go a few more weeks partying and with the babies?
I think let's look at lots of families across the length and breadth of not only America or everywhere, thinking, phew, the summer holidays have come to an end. And let's get back to the routine of school life. And because routine is important for young children, and routine going to school is part of that routine. And obviously summer holidays, I don't know, they're quite long in the States, I think. Don't they start sometime in June, or depending which state you're in, and they go on for about 3 months.
Yeah,
we tend to have them from a couple of months, sort of the end of, depending if you go to private school or you go to state school. Private school longer, about a couple of months. But obviously in Prince and William and Kate's case, their children are not uncomfortable. They've obviously had fun, and I'm sure they're mighty relieved that they can go back to Lambrook, which I drove past the other day, and the lawns and the facilities look spick and span. But it is interesting, when they go back to school, we don't hear anything. And I think we've talked about this before. There is clearly some very serious rules in place with regard to the privacy of the royal children, because they may be driving down I know the road well to that school. It's a fairly narrow road, coming from Windsor into the school, drop off, go, and then go back, like so many parents will be doing at that school. I went to school near there anyway. I've told you, nearby, with other, and I was at school with members of the royal family, as you know, at prep school at the age that the three of them are. So, but a very different era. This before social media. Yes, we had the filming of the royal family, that 1969 documentary done there, and I remember that happening. I was 10 years of age at the time.
Are you
I remember it? Probably not. No. I don't think so. Well, no, I mean the school was.
Yeah.
But I may have been. No, I don't think I was.
Just in the back of your head.
I'm on the cutting room floor, Kinsey. But I don't think it was meant to be about me. But we did have a number of members of the sort of my generation's royal family that were there. So I know the experience, but at a different time. There would have been, we had, I think, one bodyguard for the royal family who would be sort of lurking around. He was probably bored, but we wouldn't have had the press intrusion, social media, and all the easy things that are now people can fall victim to. So there is pressure on the school to make sure that they afford those children the same levels of privacy that any other child at that school can have. So it is an interesting, which is good. And obviously the British press fully understand that as well.
I think what you're saying is that when Meghan has done interviews, like when she spoke to The Cut about how her children weren't going to be safe, they were going to have their photos taken every day that they went to school. That's just not the case. That's just that this is a clear example that it's not even a law, like it's that people are just respectful of the Prince
I
of
mean,
Wales.
I think you probably, you might be on the internet more than me or more internet savvy, but I'm hard pressed to find any pictures other than the ones that are officially released. I'm sure people might have on their phones, but no one's then posting them because they know that is a no-no, because those parents will be shunned left, right, and centre because the school want to afford them the same levels of privacy as anybody else. So when Meghan says that they would be falling victim, that is just not true. Where they could fall victim is outside Britain's press. That could easily happen, and that can happen with in America. So I think that is something that I think has been a really good understanding of how the children must be allowed to have their as normal as childhood as is possible. Clearly, they live in a very different set of circumstances, but you see their choice of house. It's nothing, by royal standards, it's a small family house. So they haven't gone overly grand. So they're trying to give a sense of normality and going back to school. Probably, as we speak, mum and dad are wondering, have we got everything they need for them? As children, parents, the length and breadth of the land are falling victim to the back to school advertising that is, and I know you're speaking from America, and it's pretty horrendous over there, the back to school advertising everywhere. Less so over here, but basically come Wednesday for the Prince and Princess of Wales, they might be breathing a huge sigh of relief. But as we spoke about last week, what does this mean for the parents going forward in terms of their working life and making sure that the Princess of Wales's recovery continues in the kind of way she wants without any undue pressure on her, and that Prince William feels he can go about his business in as normal as way as possible, being mindful, though, he has to be there to help his wife's recovery and also to be there for the 3 children.
Now that you're saying that, I do remember within the last few years, there was a paparazzi shot or somebody took a shot in a store that was the Princess of Wales buying school supplies for her babies. So that it has existed in the past, but it's almost, I wish they didn't take that picture, but at the same time, it's kind of sweet to know that the Princess of Wales is in the throes of buying, number 2 pencils, grabbing the pink folder for her little princess, or we got to get blue for baby Louie. It's kind of interesting to know that she wants to do those errands.
Well, we know she's a hands-on mum. She's very wants to be there, and as involved as she can within the constraints of her circumstances. And it is a unique set of circumstances. Yes, lots of people have mum and dad working. That's the way of the world now. But when they go to work, they're not suddenly having to be worried about how they look absolutely perfectly. Because if the Princess of Wales goes out on a public duty, she's got to make sure that she looks sort of absolutely perfect. You can't just have, put on the old slingbacks and just walk out without any makeup on. That's just not allowed to happen.
Catherine, the Princess of Wales, and her Crocs. I can't see that happening anytime soon.
I wouldn't want anyone to wear Crocs anyway, but are they trendy? I don't know, Kinsey, but you're talking to someone who doesn't, you've lost me, but I think they're quite, no, she wouldn't be. Might be in her trainers. Yeah. And, a lot of people drop off to school, maybe going off to the gym, whatever. So I'm sure that they try and make it as normal as possible. But, the interesting thing is, like so many, that we know that they're going to have to negotiate this quite difficult 3-month period before the Christmas holidays of how they are then back into the fold. And William in particular, I think there's so much more pressure on him because, of course, he's fine. But at the same time, he's caring for not only his wife, but he's also, deeply concerned about the state of his father's health.
Yeah, and as you and I've spoken on multiple times, he might be physically fine, but this is a couple that has been very open about their mental health, and it there has to be a bit of a strain on you, um, feeling that much pressure, knowing that you have two people that you are crazy about, that you love more than anything in the world, that are dealing with something so physically horrific, and then feeling that additional pressure that you're the face of the family and you've got to, so my thoughts are with him quite often, on how he must be processing all of this. And I hate to, I even hate to bring this up, but how sad that he doesn't have his brother there to lean on through such a tough experience. That would really disappoint his mother. I imagine that he's having, the really only person he has to turn to is ill, and she's
Well,
got problems.
well, and this is the sadness of the whole thing, because remember, they were a very close three. He referred to the Princess of Wales as almost like the sister he didn't have, and that's why this whole thing is incredibly sad. The sort of breakdown of where it's all got to, and that Harry isn't able to offer support to his brother in a very positive way because of the bad blood, the sort of selfish approach that he's conducted. It's all about me. And, we go, but, we see in some of the stories, which we're going to allude to,
Yeah.
he's suddenly beginning to realize that this all about me thing ain't quite all it's carved up to be.
Yeah, because it literally becomes you and you alone. But it's to me, one of the reasons why it's so unforgivable. And I know we should encourage forgiveness, but one of the reasons I have a hard time processing the idea of forgiveness is because truly, since Harry and Meghan have left, it has been a difficult time, for the British royal family. They sat down for the Oprah Winfrey interview while Prince Philip was in the hospital. That, shortly after that, the Queen dies. Shortly after that, we find out that the King has cancer. Shortly after that, we find out that the Princess of Wales is seeking cancer treatment. So Harry started this crusade when the royal family was already in a dark place. And it's like that is when he should have said, hey, should I pull back on this because I don't want to do anything that might make their life more difficult. And people say he's pulling back today, releasing Spare without an update. I guess that he's a martyr now for releasing Spare without an update. But I think back on all of the hurt that's happened since then, the Queen passes, Meghan's doing the tacky curtsy in the Netflix series. It's been like punch after punch.
Well, and this is the problem, and what the royal family are so sad about, in a way, that Harry can't see that he has just sort of blindly gone on with this tirade against the royal family, not sparing a thought for the feelings of his family, and, as I say, making it all about him. Yet he is convinced that it's not his fault. And I'm sometimes you do question. He doesn't seem to be able to read the room unless it's being told to him by maybe someone quite close to him that he married, and that therein lies the problem. He got the emotional intelligence to look outside Montecito and actually realize that, these series of events, doing an Oprah interview, and actually then some of it seemingly being questioned for its bit of clickbait, really, more than anything else, and actually not being what really happened. As we know, recollections may vary, and all the various little accusations here, the little comments, just it's sad. And actually, that I mean, you met the curtsy scene makes me wince, because that to me is absolute Meghan. Well, no, being a traditionalist, she knew how to behave, but it was sort of done in a sort of over the top way, which actually I even think Harry, looking on, was a bit surprised by it. But they kept it in the program, but presumably that's what Meghan wanted. So there we go. they basically haven't thought about anyone else but themselves. And that's the sad fact. And now Harry may be thinking, oh, have I gone wrong? Now I've got to try and I actually am missing what I had before. But it's taken him a long time to realize.
Yeah, and what you're referring to is this story coming out of the Daily Mail, the Mail on Sunday, that says Prince Harry sought advice from his former British aides about plotting a return from the US that could involve a partial reinstatement to the royal fold. A lot of pushback on this online, and the majority is coming from people that live in the UK that say a private reconciliation is an amazing idea, but we don't think we'll ever accept you back in a partial capacity as a member of the royal family. There's real anger when it comes to the idea of Prince Harry trying to worm his way back into the royal family in some way, because people feel like that's exactly what he asked the Queen for. And the Queen said, absolutely not. You can't have a commercial life and continue to represent the British royal family. And even when you look at trips like Colombia and Nigeria, it feels like Harry and Meghan are trying to force the royal family's hand by pursuing things where they still use their titles. They're trying to play the roles, yet they aren't representing the royal family. They're not representing anybody but themselves.
And yeah, they may be representing themselves when the guys are trying to do good. So we can look at the intention. But actually it comes down to the fact that Harry is rudderless now. There's nothing. He's done his vitriolic attacks on members of the royal family and had it go. And if he feels that's what he feels, but don't expect suddenly everything to be in the royal garden to be lovely and rosy. It's just not going to be the case. So what he has to do, if he wants to get back to his friends, he has to do it a bit like as we've started talking about, go and do the quiet, go to the funeral, no fuss, no bother. But actually now that's what he's got to do. Little private visits here and there to go and see his dad under, circumstances which there is no publicity, and rebuild trust that way. How they rebuild trust, I don't know, because we do know that Meghan's probably got her own autobiography ready to go here, there, and everywhere, and will probably, want to absolutely go for the royal family with all guns blazing. I don't know, maybe, but I'm sure she would like to do one, and that's always overhanging Harry, because he may want to have a rapprochement with his family, but at the same time, Meghan is not showing any indication that she wants to set foot in this country ever again. And the security issue is a complete and utter sideshow, because Harry, funny enough, seemed to be able to come into the country last week. No one knew he was here. Thank you very much. It's a sideshow, and it's an excuse for which to say, I don't want to come here, but actually I'm quite happy to go to Nigeria and Colombia, which on the face of it don't necessarily seem to be, the most obvious and safe places. Yes, of course, there are great parts of the country that I'm sure are safe, but in comparison, I think, again, it feels like it's a total excuse that Meghan's not one to put a dispute, even though she's saying wish the feud would come to an end. But she has helped fan those feuds.
Well, hold on. I'm going to bring that interview up again, or that article, I should say, up again, where Meghan is saying that she wants to end the feud. But really quickly, let's run through this story from The Sun. This is The Sun is reporting that after the Colombia tour, the Duke of Sussex feels overshadowed by Meghan Markle, which is actually something you said a few weeks ago. So you were very astute in that observation. An insider has now claimed that Harry is attempting to reconnect with friends in the UK. Harry is feeling more and more isolated in California, which is why he has been reconnecting with old friends back home, the source told The Sun. The Colombia trip also really highlighted how Meghan is comfortable stepping into the spotlight while Harry cuts a very sulky, unhappy figure in the background. He wants to carve out a way back into the royal life and is seeking counsel from old friends and associates. Now, this is a source talking to The Sun, basically reiterating what somebody told the Daily Mail. And these are two British outlets. Now, here in the States, we have Meghan on the cover of Us Weekly magazine, Meghan's New Life, Meghan's Fresh Start. We have Meghan telling Page, I should say, somebody from the Sussex camp telling Page Six that Meghan is about to throw a huge A-list party for Prince Harry's 40th birthday. We have headlines in People magazine that say Meghan just wants a fresh start and doesn't want to look backwards anymore. I'm seeing two competing narratives. And one in the United States that's all about Meghan's, as from royal to entrepreneur, this is a successful girl boss. And Prince Harry, I might have made a mistake. I need my family. I'm wondering how much Prince Harry recognizes these two separate narratives, and if Meghan or Meghan's team is pushing this one narrative, and we've got Prince Harry or Prince, because you can't tell me that these are close friends of Harry's that are loyal to him. That was one of the lines in the Daily Mail article. One is a very trusted advisor. Well, obviously, how trusted can you be if we're hearing about this in the Daily Mail? I believe that if these stories are true, these individuals have been given permission to share this information. And it's incredibly odd to me that we're headed in such drastic directions when it comes to some of these stories that have been leaked recently.
Well, when you saw what was going on in Colombia, it's basically, if he was still a member of the working member of the royal family, she would have to be the one behind. But she can't, and that's part of the reason for the break. She wanted to be the star turn. Well, in these circumstances, she can. So being the Duchess of Sussex and using that name, she's always the focus of attention. And that plays into the Meghan playbook, which is, I am the very successful entrepreneur. Look, I've been, since the age of 11, I've been fighting for women's rights, and I've been basically out there doing my thing. And look at me. Harry, because his problem is, she can do this, and she has got, maybe wants to set up America Riviera Orchard or other things and be that sort of entrepreneur. But for Harry, what's he got? And at the moment, he just feels like he's spare within the marriage. Forget him being spare within. At the moment, it's rather sad, because I'm not sure. Yes, he's got Invictus Games, and yes, he wants to help things. But some of the things people say, that some of the things he's ambassador for, that he's not actually doing a lot, because yes, he can lend his name, but he's, what's he bringing to the party? And I think he's feeling lost. And in America, yes, it's the land of the free and the great fun and friends, and but it can be the most lonely of places. America, it's not all sweetness and light, and everyone wants to run around. It can be a bit of a me culture, and Meghan wants it me. But Harry doesn't. Everything was done for him, and he didn't have to work when he was a member of the royal family, because it just rolled into one thing, and he could pick and choose and do his own thing. And he had his friends, but all his friends left him and didn't want to be his friends anymore, because unfortunately his wife wasn't as welcoming as she should be. And it's all very sad. And you can see the history here. Meghan doesn't have many contacts with her extended family, if at all. And it's all very unseemly, as we know. And Harry is also unseemly, but maybe he is just beginning to realize, as he turns 40, that, I need to look 10 years time. What am I going to be doing in 10 years time? Am I just going to be a lonely person doing the school run while my wife is running around doing her thing, and I'm just in the background? And that's his problem, because I'm not sure he knows how he can give his life full meaning at the moment. And we saw him in Colombia. Yes, it looked all good, but he was always felt that if she wasn't in the center stage, that he had to make way for her to be the focus of attention. And it's very sad that Harry, is in this situation. I think trouble is, we can all see it.
Yeah, I wonder, but when I look at these competing headlines, I wonder if there is, if they are aware that they're trying to go in two separate directions. Are they aware of the leaks going on both sides? Because to me, it just sounds like Harry has regrets and Meghan is trying to say, I'm going to win no matter what. And I guess we continuously have this conversation. There is no clear goal at the end. It doesn't seem like they are on the same page. Whether they're podcasting, hosts of TV shows, jam makers, whatever, the calligraphers, the list goes on and on of jobs they've tried to do over the last few years. It just seems like they are not on the same page with the stories that are coming out. But I bet you we'll have a similar discussion next week. This week's discussion was amazing. Thank you so much for talking to me, Rupert.
Well, no problem at all. But when I last week, I thought, well, there won't be much to talk about this week. Suddenly that all changed with the news of the funeral, and then obviously these leaks coming from the various papers over here, and obviously Meghan obviously saying how wonderful she is at shifting clothes. It's interesting that now she just sees herself as a clothes horse who can sell mountains of dresses and things, rather than being the great entrepreneur. She's actually now basically becoming a glorified clothes horse. So interesting the way the things are going at the moment. So it was a full-on week, no doubt about it. So I wonder what will happen over the next 7 days. But they both of them, both couples, struggle to stay out of the spotlight.
That's true. Well, I don't think Harry and Meghan have any desire. Well, I don't think Meghan has any desire to stay out of the spotlight. I think Prince Harry could do without it, but Meghan Markle seems to enjoy her sit down with the New York Times. All right. Well, we will likely have plenty to talk about next week. If you agree with us, disagree with us, make sure you leave a comment below, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you share with a friend. Thanks so much for watching. And Rupert, I couldn't do it without you, buddy.
Thank you very much, Kinsey.